Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll for Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, the last full week of June. Let that just settle for a second. In 2 weeks, 4th of July weekend. Our last show with Julian Edlow for the summer. He'll be back in mid-August, a well overdue summer vacation, kind of, sort of, for a good friend and colleague. Today, we're going to be talking a lot of NBA draft, where Julien sees the top 4 or 5 picks. He'll go through the market with us, where maybe he finds some value on the DraftKings Sportsbook to help us and guide us for the draft on Thursday. Ask him a few questions, obviously. Wembayamba, Scooter, those names. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the NBA. Bradley Beal to the Suns. It didn't move my needle. I mean, just take Paul out, bring Beal in. They can't play defense, no rim protector, yada, yada, yada. Zion and the Fruit Loop that I guess he was messing around with, now sex tapes. Rumor has it he's going to be moved by Thursday, which would be interesting to see what Julian thinks. It kind of, for the locals, not hearing a lot of chitter-chatter, obviously, about Jaylen Brown. We add another former player, Mr. Presley, to the bench to help coach. So be interesting. I'm hearing Brogdon on the move, and I love Brogdon. I'd rather move smart, but what do I know? But anyways, enough of me. Let's bring in the star of the show, the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow.
How we doing, Jeff?
Good morning, Julian. How are we?
Doing pretty well.
Shout out, good morning to Mr. Connor. How are you? Glad you're here. A lot of viewers here, Julian. They want to know what is up. NBA, let's start here. A lot of stuff going on. I'll ask you the first question. Did Bradley Beal, A, move the needle for you, and B, did it move the needle on the odds for the Suns?
Not much. I don't think they got any worse. I don't think they got much better. But they got something new. And, Chris Paul hasn't been able to lead a team to, over the hump. That's extremely well documented. And now they're going to try something new. Now, the West is pretty wide open. Denver proved they're the best team. They just finally got healthy, got Murray and Porter Jr. for a healthy playoff run, and went 16-4. So it would be a slight to say they're not the best in the West right now, and they have the best player in the league. But beneath that, I think it's a lot of mix and match and not quite sure. It was the Suns who took Denver to 6. Denver swept the Lakers. The Lakers took down the Warriors. So, the Suns gave the champions the best crack out of anybody that faced them, and that was with Chris Paul getting hurt in series. So, if you add Bradley Beal to that, there's 2 things Phoenix needs to become they're a contender now, but a scary, legitimate contender. And the obvious one, first of all, is depth, because they keep gutting themselves in these trades for KD and then for Beal. And the second one, I think, is to attempt to move on from Ayton. Now, what's good about Ayton is that he's something that in some ways the Celtics do need, a big guy that is capable, that eats up 40 minutes a night, that doesn't get hurt all the time. Now, I think he's a soft player. I don't think he's a winning player. I don't think he's a championship player, but like he's a guy that can eat big minutes in the front court. If they can find a way, downgrade the talent, upgrade the, winning mentality at that position, I think that would go a long way for Phoenix, because they don't need the talent. They have all the scoring in the world now on the perimeter. And, Durant's 7 feet. He can get some buckets down low. So they just need, winning pieces. If there was any way to flip Ayton for a Draymond Green in a sign and trade, like something along those lines would go a long way with Phoenix, as well as just finding a way to fill out their depth. They're going to have to get guys on team friendly deals that want to win. But I am curious to see, Booker averaged 8+ assists a game without Paul in the lineup. He's going to handle the point guard duties. Beal is a better distributor than he gets credit for. So I think those guys, I think that's going to be a good, capable combo backcourt, and the ball will move. Durant's taken a step back the last couple of years, but again, I think that their backcourt is capable. I think that Durant, with those 3 guys, is capable of winning. It's just the depth and either switching Ayton out for the right front court piece or finding the right front court piece to put next to Ayton that, gets him to play through his holes as a, soft big guy.
So are you saying, tongue in cheek, that the Suns are a Robert Williams away?
Well, I mean, the Celtics are a Robert Williams away too, because Robert Williams doesn't play. So a lot of teams are a Robert Williams away. But he can't stay on the floor. Like, you just need to be prepared for him to either be on or off the floor. And then when he is, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes is his range. So if I'm the Celtics, I'd like him to stick around. But the one thing, like, just, in theory, if you swapped Ayton and Robert Williams, I don't know if that would do you much good in the playoffs, but it would definitely help you through the regular season, because Ayton's going to be there to eat up 40 minutes a night and, get you plenty of 20 and 15 games that, against the Pistons in February, that's going to win you the game. So I think that's why the Celtics are in a desperate position to kind of almost be forced into re-signing restricted free agent Grant Williams. They need a young guy that stays healthy, that eats front court minutes, because when your big guys that you rely on are, always injured Robert Williams and 37, 38 Al Horford, you need bodies that can eat those 40 minutes. Again, Pistons in February, somebody's got to play the minutes, unless you're just going to give it to Luke Cornett, Mike Muscala type of guys.
Let's jump on to Zion late over the weekend. What I heard was he was going to get moved. Now, I'm not a big Twitter and drama guy, but the sex tapes, the scandals that's going on, I think they should move on from him. He doesn't want to be there anyways. He hasn't played a lot of games so far in his career. Your thoughts on Zion? Is he going to get moved? And if he does, where do you think he will get moved?
No idea. I've heard Portland prefers him to Ingram, his teammate, who they're not going to move Ingram anyway, I don't think. So I have no idea what to believe. You're going to hear every rumor in the world. With why his name is in the news recently, would you just start trade rumors so that that's the top thing that comes up on Google instead of the other stuff? Maybe. But is it, are the Pelicans at a point where they could trade Zion? Sure, it's frustrating. Guy doesn't play. He's, he just can't stay on the court. And a guy with his skill set and what they invested in him, that's frustrating. So the internal question has to be, do you cut bait now while he's 22 and still has some value? do we try and get him out on the court? But if you fail trying to get him out on the court and now he's 24, 25 and still hasn't played, what are the back end of his 20s going to look like if he can't play in his early 20s and his late teens? So now you're cutting your trade value in half. I personally think that his trade value has already taken such a hit. Just ride it out with him and see if he can get it together. Because what's the difference of taking 60 cents on the dollar now versus 40 cents on the dollar in 2 years? What do you get? Like one less top 10 protected first round pick back in your trade offer? I think the upside of seeing if he can slap it together in the next couple of years is more worth it than getting, the 17th pick in the 2026 draft. So I would ride it out and see what happens, but there's only so much more failure that you can endure there before you got to look to move on.
So you're trying to tell me after Wembayamba, where do you think his value is versus a team that is picking in the draft, let's say top 5, top 7, top 8, wherever you want to go? Where is that point where you'd rather take a swing and correct Zion versus the cheaper move and drafting someone?
I would say that number 2 and number 3 picks both have more value than Zion. Okay. Because you're going to get Scoot Henderson or you're going to get Brandon Miller, who should be all-star caliber players in the NBA, and who both are going to be on the court. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, but neither of them have any red flags that look like they're going to be kept off the court unless they suffer something unfortunate in their NBA careers. So I think both of those guys are more valuable at this point in time than Zion. And then after that is when you have to decide if the Thompson twins or Cam Whitmore or whoever is more valuable to you than Zion, which really depends on what team you are, what stage you're at, things like that.
Locally, you talked about Grant Williams again, another one that voiced his frustrations throughout the year, like Peyton Pritchard, like a few others, about playing time. Yesterday, it sounded like that they were going to stick and stay with Grant. I did hear early, I think on the weekend, that Gallinari picked up the option. He will be ready, supposedly. They just add another assistant. Give us what you're seeing and hearing from the locals.
Not a ton. I mean, the Celtics are doing exactly what they had to do from a staff standpoint so far, which does that change, their mentality, who they are, this team that's fallen apart in the playoffs since they've kind of become contenders? No, not yet, but they haven't made any mistakes. I think they've done all the right things so far to give themselves a chance to rebuild this coaching staff and kind of rebuild their mentality, which I like. I like all of their coaching hires so far. And now, once we get to July, it'll be time to do the player aspect of it. And I think for the most part, run it back, but they're going to have to mix a couple of things up. Will they trade a guard? How will they address the need for front court depth? Those will be the big questions. I don't necessarily know how they'll do it. If they'll bring Williams back, if they'll sign and trade him. I don't think they can afford to just let him walk. I think they need to sign and trade him, because if he's gone, they need a big that's going to eat minutes to bring back somehow, unless you're talking about trading Brogdon or Smart for a guy that then fills front court minutes. So those are the things they need to figure out. And so far they've done a good job with the coaching staff. So I've nothing to say to knock them with how they've gone about business so far. So hopefully that continues once we get to the even more important aspect of the summer, which is how we address the roster.
Is Brogdon gone?
No, I don't think there's any reason to believe he's gone. He won 6th man. He had a great season, that's going to be remembered by him not scoring for the last 5 games because his arm was falling off. So, like, he's hurt. There's nothing you can do. Terrible call by Joe Mazzulla to insert him in Game 7. Terrible call to play him when he was playing him hurt the rest of the way. Like, probably should have shut him down, just play Derek White 40 minutes based on what we were seeing on the court. But awful call by Mazzulla to play him in Game 7. And what that now does is, puts in fans' minds what they saw. He came on, I don't even have the numbers in front of me. He played like 7 minutes and was a minus 17, something like that in Game 7 and couldn't hit a shot. I get why that's going to rub people the wrong way, but it's also not his fault. Players going to say, hey, it's Game 7, all hands on deck, put me in. It's Mazzulla's job to say no. And now that leaves a bad taste in fans' mouths. But when healthy, he had a great season and he stayed healthy for the whole season until the very end. So I would say probably Marcus Smart is the first guard in line to be traded, but it's close with Brogdon. The only White should stay. So the only reason you move Brogdon is if you value.
You hit the mute button, brother. Did we lose you? It's showing mute.
How we doing now?
Perfect.
I can't hear you is the problem. That's going to make for a tough show.
Did I go?
You want me to just come back in? Give me a thumbs up if you want me to leave and come back in. All right.
I guess we're having technical difficulties here. Apologies. Let's see if we can get this to work. God willing. Bear with me for 2 seconds as Mr. Jules leaves the studio and comes back. I hope everyone can hear me. Here we go. Let's see. How about now?
I have you.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Problem solved.
Last thing before we get into the NBA draft, Miami, valiant effort, gentlemen sweep with the Bradley Beal move. Now all eyes, all attention, Lillard to Miami. Thoughts? Is it going to happen?
Again, like there's 2 very clear ways it goes. I believe the reports from prominent NBA reporters that Lillard wants to build in Portland. They're trying to offer 3 and things to Boston for Jaylen Brown. They're trying to offer, 23 and Simons for other veteran players. They're trying to make it work around Lillard. The problem is, like, the closer you get to the season and none of these moves have happened, well, then I don't know if Lillard wants to come back and play with the 3 pick and Shaden Sharp and the 23 pick and Simons and just not win in the West. So at what point is it that nothing happens, that you get close enough to the season where Lillard says, okay, now send me to Miami and you guys can rebuild? I don't know exactly when that is. Right now I would say it's not going to happen because they're going to keep trying to make something happen up until the draft. Once we get to July, if things are still intact in Portland and they have Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson sitting on the roster, they have the 23rd pick sitting on the roster. Now, okay, maybe you're looking at shipping Lillard to Miami, and it would, in my opinion, be Miami for Hero and whatever other young pieces and picks you can give to Portland.
All right. This is your expertise here. The NBA draft is on Thursday. Obviously, the whole world knows who the number 1 pick is. Generational Mr. Wembayamba. From there, we're hearing Scoot, we're hearing Miller 2-3, and then the fun begins. What do you have in pocket? What are you looking at? What can you give the viewers today? Some help, some insight for Thursday. So if they want to get their feet wet in the draft.
Well, what I have in pocket really doesn't matter because it's essentially all gone by a mile. I did bet Brandon Miller to go 2 on lottery night, which went from, it was like 9-1 months ago, 3-1 during March Madness, plus 125 on lottery night, got up to minus 250. And now it's gone back the other way, and Scoot Henderson's minus 250 to go number 2, which, if you've been betting drafts the last couple of years, means nothing. It could be Miller. It could be Scoot. We don't know. I don't think Charlotte knew until yesterday, which maybe because they brought them back for another workout on Monday, maybe that's when they decided on Henderson. Like, we don't know. So I'm feeling less comfortable about that one now, obviously, but I wouldn't advise betting it where it is until we learn more. The closest thing to a bet that I do still have on the board is Taylor Hendricks from UCF under 8.5. I think Indiana at 7 would make a lot of sense, but again, it depends where things slide. So I think this is a really tough board. Betting drafts is definitely becoming more and more difficult. Really more this year, starting with the NFL. It's gotten more difficult. I would say I don't mind a plus 250 type of bet on Derek Lively to go top 10, the big guy from Duke. He was the number 1 overall prospect in high school coming into last season. He's a 7-footer that runs well. He's shot really well in workouts. I think that he's by all reports kind of flying up boards, which makes sense. Like, if he had a 15-10 season at Duke, now we're talking about him as the number 4 guy in this draft. So like 10 to Dallas is a nice, way to win that top 10 bet if he doesn't sneak up higher, because Dallas desperately needs some size. You can't keep getting away with, Dwight Powell and the rest of those guys that they have in the front court. So no information there. That's just one that by eyeballing it, I think makes some sense. And I would really like a Lively over under draft position prop. If that was a 14.5, 13.5, I would absolutely be looking at that under, but I'm just looking. We don't quite have that there. So that's one that I'm working on getting up, but I'm just looking through it. Like, it's a tough board. Kason Wallace from Kentucky is doing well with workouts. You can get him plus money to go top 12, but I think he was 13.5, 14.5 before. But he's a guy that I think has some potential. And a lot of them are just really juiced, which makes them hard to play, like a minus 310, a minus 275. So yeah, Lively top 10 right now is probably my favorite thing on the board, but that shouldn't mean too much. I'm going to wait for more new stuff to come out, and hopefully some of that stuff gives us some opportunities.
Shams, Woj, any social media, Twitter gems that maybe some of the public can maybe add and start following where they can get some of this news as well?
Jonathan Givony is always good. ESPN, Wasserman is good. Kevin O'Connor at The Ringer is good. So yeah, definitely include those guys, I would say, in your research.
All right. My backdrop today is Gillette Stadium, and the locals have been having a field day over the weekend. Mr. Jones decided to bring in 2 loaded guns to Logan Airport. Now the off season for the Pats has just been hysterical in regards to losing a couple OTAs because of stupidity. Now this is going on. Patriots culture. In Bill we trust. There's gotten to a point where the locals, as he lost a little on his fastball, we're talking Schuler, we're talking Tom Landry kind of playing out these long careers and scenarios. Give us your take on the Patriots right now.
I mean, my take on the Patriots overall hasn't really budged all offseason. I think the offense is going to look better under Bill O'Brien. I think that the defense will look pretty similar, although now worse without Jones, who was going to be a starting corner and played really well last year. So they're in a really good division. They're in a really good conference. They're probably going to finish last in their division and, not make the postseason. And we'll see where they go from here. I guess my curiosity, if I'm going to take something from this season, would be like, how does the offense look? Does Mac Jones go from a promising rookie quarterback to a dreadful second season to a, oh, you know what? He is more of that guy that we saw when we drafted him 15th and we, threw him out there as a rookie, beat out Cam Newton for the starting job. Like, that would be encouraging to see, but I think it's just after years of being a contender, this team is mediocre, and that is what it is. And Jones certainly didn't help them at all with his decision making, which is sounds like it's going to be very costly to him personally in his entire career.
Next year at this point, obviously record, I feel the same as you do. I think they finished last in the division. Last year, if we go back and roll the tape out, I had them finishing last. And of course, they eke out the Jets. And the funny thing, next year at this time, it will be his fourth year. And we do know at that point, you have to make a decision. Is this guy going to be your guy because of the all-important fifth year? And then that's when the money starts to come into play, yada, yada, yada there. D-Hop, I mean, just making the rounds. Basically, they're making it pretty clear on social media. There's no sense of urgency here. He's not going to make a decision right away. I think he used the Titans and the Patriots visits as trying to kick some tires, maybe on a Kansas City, maybe on a Buffalo. Do you see any chance that this gets resolved early? Any chance he comes to New England, or we just have no idea?
I just don't see why he would come to New England unless one of those teams he can win a Super Bowl with isn't offering him anything, or he just demands to be the number one receiver. So he could do a one-year deal here, build his value back up, and get a bigger contract with a better team. But it seems to me like he's in the stage of his career where why wouldn't he want to be? I mean, first of all, by the end of the year, like he probably would be the wide receiver one in Kansas City. He doesn't have that much. I mean, you have Kelsey, so maybe you're technically the second option, but the wide receiver one. Buffalo next to Diggs. I don't know why you wouldn't want to go to one of these spots, play with one of those guys, and contend for a Super Bowl versus come to New England and be mediocre. So I would be surprised if he doesn't land on a contender, but if he doesn't, it's really just kind of a prove it one-year deal, I guess.
Since this is our last show here for 7 weeks till August, mid-August, it's been a week. Have your eyes seen any more in the college?
So we've talked Michigan, we've talked Alabama, we've talked LSU, we've talked Washington. I guess the one thing that I've added, and it's not my own, it's credit to CT Bets, our friend Chris Thurston. You can find some of his stuff at Wager Talk, promoting Viva Seltzer all the time. Big sports better. Iowa is his team. A juiced over 7.5. And I did tail him on that because, they were right on 7, I think, last year, regular season, but they didn't have a quarterback. Now they bring in the quarterback from Michigan, and they played Michigan and Ohio State last year, and they take both off the schedule this year. So you bring back the offensive line, you get yourself a quarterback from an offense that couldn't score. I think they should be able to score, and the schedule gets significantly easier, and the defense is the defense. So it's juiced for a reason. But yeah, 9-win team for Iowa. And if they division odds will be out soon on DraftKings Sportsbook, I would imagine they'd be like 2.5 to 1 to win that division because Wisconsin will be favored. I don't mind that either, where they'll go to the Big Ten championship game and hopefully lose to Michigan because I have Michigan to win the Big Ten.
Michigan gaining a lot of steam. A lot of people on social media really liking Michigan this year, and their game against Ohio State is at the Big House this year, which obviously will make a difference there. How's your baseball been treating you?
Up and down, per usual. Had a decent weekend with some pitcher wins. I'm trying to remember some of them, like the Braves. You have the Braves is like minus 300 against the Rockies, yet you have Elder being like even money for the win. Just been riding those. That one worked out. You can slap together some same game parlays from time to time. I know, same game parlays are generally a no, but as long as you correlate them. Like last night I had Evaldi. Who pitched last night? Paxton. I had Paxton to record the win, pitch over 17.5 outs, which is to get through 6, and to get over 6.5 strikeouts, which he just barely did. He got his last out, came out for the top of the 6th, got a strikeout, and got yanked. But through all those together, you're looking at like plus 360. It's extremely correlated. So, I'm not trying to win minus 110s, minus 120s every day with baseball. Sick and tired of that. I'd rather try and win some bigger plus money stuff and get by that way. So that's the type of stuff I'm looking at today. What is it today? I think Framber. I don't do well when I say what I'm betting on this show on baseball at all. But Verlander's back in Houston. Framber Valdez is plus 165 to get the win. Not as dramatic of a one at all. I think it's minus 130 for Houston on the money line. Generally, I would just take Houston money line, but Framber plus 165 for the win, I think is decent. So we'll see how that does. But every time I bring up wins on this show for that day, Tuesdays, I can't get it.
I will give you one nugget, as it was last year. Fade Mr. Balo from the Red Sox. He is
awesome.
He has been damn good.
That's another one. I bet him to get the win on Sunday night. That came through.
You can see that Pedro's been working with him. He's got that flair. I'm not comparing him to Pedro, but listen, the kid from last year to where he is this year has made leaps and bounds. He will be the ace for the Sox moving forward. And just when we want to bury this team, that's all they do is keep winning. So that makes it interesting. As we wrap up here, go to the – actually, I want to say this first about DraftKings Sportsbook. To anyone that has an opportunity to download – if your state doesn't have DraftKings, do yourself a justice. Download the app and follow along, please. But if your state offers you wagering with DraftKings, shame on you if you haven't downloaded it, made a deposit. There's promos, there's free plays. I don't want to say free plays. There's bonus
bets.
Bonus bets. Yes. Bonus bets. There's opportunities. My point is this this past weekend I took a one swing on the dailies for the Millie, and I played 3 Pat Mayos rake free, and I was winning a lot of money, and of course I had the horses up top and none of them won. I had no Wyndham Clark. Long story short is I won $125 and I won $3 in bonus bets. Well, I woke up on Monday morning and I saw that in my sportsbook account as well as my daily account, and I'm scratching my head. I'm looking, maybe I had a future from way back. I couldn't find anything. And then I reached out to a good buddy of mine, Mr. Brian Gaskell. And so will you explain to everyone how that actually works?
You're saying that your sports book is now linked to your DFS?
The way I understood it was they put the 125 in the DFS and the sports book. So if I bet $25 tonight in the sports book, they'll now take $25 off of the daily. So any one money is technically in both, but you can wherever you play it, you're going to get withdrawn from. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That's new to me. I wasn't in that meeting, but I've been on that team for a while that, you might as well just make the balances the same. But there were some hurdles there. So if that's what you're seeing, then nice. But I need to check on that.
Yeah, it's like
this isn't my neck of the woods in terms of decision making.
Well, the funny is, I was having a hard time depositing a week 10 days ago. So what I did is I just slapped it in the daily, and I was thinking I could play back and forth. You cannot do that. But the way I understand it, and we'll find out tonight, obviously, is one money is shared, and then
money. Okay.
One money, not deposited money. One money is now shared.
And that makes more sense.
Yes.
So, but if you want to bet, you need to deposit in DraftKings Sportsbook. If you want to play DFS, you need to deposit in the DraftKings app, is the way it's always been. So
correct.
And if you're listening.
Any promos for the gentlemen, since you'll be gone for the summer, for this weekend, for the draft, moving forward? End with a bang here, Jules.
Nothing draft related, but you made the pitch for new customers. When you sign up, you will get $150 in bonus bets once you place a $5 bet. I don't even think it has to grade. So you'll get those right away. I mentioned the same game parlay stuff, like correlated pitcher stuff is, what's been getting me by in baseball recently. And if you're going to slap it all together, like I had plus 360 on Paxton last night, you can get, like today, we have a same game parlay, 100% profit boost. So like, I think it's $25, but if you're doing that and you place the bet that I placed last night, that 360 becomes 720. And that's a pretty nice $25 bet right there. So that one is a boost. We'll also throughout the summer, just do the, what's the word I'm looking for? No risk same game parlays where whatever you bet $25, swing for the fences, go for as big a plus money as you want, because if it loses, you get refunded with the $25 bonus bet. And for those of you that do have it, I assume most of you have DraftKings Sportsbook, even though we're making the pitch to sign up. Your motivation to invite your friends is you get a $100 bonus bet if you get them. So just you click it, refer now, text the link to your friends. That's all you got to do. Hey, sign up. If they do, $100 bonus bet.
There you go. The one and only Julian Edlow. Go follow him at Julian Edlow. Find his work at DraftKings, DK Sportsbook, DK Live. Go check out his podcast at Unreasonable Odd Podcast. Jules, it's been a great, great time as always. Enjoy your 7 weeks. I'll circle the calendar. I'll circle back the wagons, obviously, in August. And please, if you're on the Cape at any point this summer, pick up the phone. I'm right in Centerville, 1480 Falmouth Road, across the street from the Centerville Package Store. Come by, say hi, watch a game. We'll go grab a lobster roll. How's that?
All right. Sounds good, sir.
Take care, Julian.
Take care.
The one and only Julian Edlow at DK Sportsbook at DraftKings. Good friend, good colleague. DraftKings really, really doing well. Stocks up if you're was a part of the big push. Well, it came crashing down, but it's making a move, and DraftKings is everywhere. Again, the more options you have to window shop, the better you will do long term. Also, the prop market, we're in week 3. We've been now crushing it. It's work in progress. We don't put out a million of them. We've done very, very well on the hits, runs, and RBIs. The same on the stolen bases. So we're picking and choosing like everyone else. So if you're not following us, go follow me at EC Sports Invest. Or if you have any comments, questions, concerns, you can send me an email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. If you're interested in our VIP delivery service, text and email, go to our website at eastcoastsportsinvestors.com. Top page, plans and pricing for just $3 a day. A large iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, a Venti coffee from Starbucks can get our picks delivered to you for just $3 a day. First time customers here. Last 30 weeks, 19 winning weeks, 6 losing weeks, 5 pushes. And that doesn't include the props, which in the last 2 weeks have been crushing it. So shout out to the men behind the glass, Mr. Ben Cohen, Mr. Joseph Shea, Mr. Cade Horton. If you are up, good morning to you. 5 o'clock, the closing bell. Myself and Riley will get you caught up in today's sports market. And at 6:30, 6:45, give or take a few minutes, myself and Scotty Webb will be breaking down the MLB. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, shout out to Connor and everyone else that's watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you this afternoon. Enjoy your morning.